안녕하세요. 지금 이제 깨고 오늘 너무 힘들어요. 그 휴의대 이제 진행할 거고요. 휴의대 하면은 이제 호주에서는 퀸즐랜드 대학교죠. 그리고 퀸즐랜드 대학교의 휴의대 패컬티에서 나오셔서 이제 관련해서 이제 좀 얘기를 드릴 거고요. 마찬가지로 바로 화면 전환해서 도와드릴 건데 휴의대는 아까 의대랑 마찬가지로 별도의 통역 없이 진행하겠습니다. 왜냐면은 제가 생각하기에 휴의대와 의대 정도 생각하시는 분들은 별도의 통역이 필요 없을 거라고 믿기 때문에 별도의 통역을 도와드리진 않을 거고요. 혹시나 조금 힘드셔가지고 도움이 필요하시면 들으시면서 채팅창에 남겨주시면 저희가 바로바로 도와드릴 테니까 그렇게 하겠습니다. Yeah, now I switch the screen for yours and then you can use your time now.
Thank you so much. Okay, I will just begin by sharing my screen, everyone, and making sure that you can see this. So please bear with me one moment. Okay, let's get started. How does that look? Does that show for you, Chris?
Yeah, looking good.
Okay, fantastic. Well, thank you so much for joining me today, everyone. My name is Margot Chandler, and as you might have just been told, I work in the Faculty of Science at the University of Queensland. It is a pleasure to speak with you all today, and I would just like to start by saying a very big thank you to VADA Education for hosting today's fair. We're very pleased to be here. So today we're going to look at a couple of different things about our veterinary science program and also what it takes to really become a veterinary scientist or a veterinarian. So for today's session, we will primarily be exploring the knowledge and mindset that you will need to study veterinary science. And then we will look at what a veterinary science career involves as well. We will look at the UQ programs that we have on offer and just touch on the Bachelor of Veterinary Science Honours program and then explore some of the career pathways and employment outcomes as well. So we all know that veterinarians, I should say, or vets, look after the health and well-being of animals. They diagnose, treat and help prevent disease and injury in animals. But what does that look like in practice, in the clinic each day? Most vets concentrate on at least one field of study or expertise, such as small animals, horses, livestock. There are also veterinarians who look after unusual and exotic pets and animals such as reptiles, rodents and birds. So each of these expertise fields are actually going to have a slightly different experience in the clinic each day. Some veterinarians undertake postgraduate training to specialise in a particular area of veterinary science, such as surgery, radiology, dermatology, which is your skin, and some will look at behaviour or maybe ophthalmology, which is your eyes, of course. So while most of Australia's vets work in veterinary practices or clinics, veterinarians actually fill other important roles in a number of different industries as well. Some might work in government, and in Australia, vets supervise the handling and health of stock designed for export and quarantine for incoming livestock, genetic material and animal products. So they play a very important role in the biosecurity of Australia and also in other countries around the world. Vets working in this area are also involved in public health programs to ensure the safety of food and the regulation of agricultural and veterinary chemicals. And in state governments, vets are responsible for animal welfare, such as monitoring, controlling, eradicating many animal diseases. So they're often employed in the field and in laboratories in those government settings. In industry, you might find a vet in the pharmaceutical industry, and they will be continually developing new medicines for animals and humans. So that requires the involvement from veterinarians in the research, development, and in providing information to other veterinarians. So vets will work in the regulation of medicines, medications and vaccines. They may also monitor and address any adverse side effects that happen. And they'll also be involved in things like pet nutrition and ensuring that pet foods that are developed meet the standards that promote the health of the pet at various stages of their lives. Vets are also employed in industry to supervise the breeding, care and maintenance of animals used in research and in the specialty pet food industry. They might also work in teaching and research roles. So they may teach undergraduate and postgraduate students in universities like UQ. Others will teach in TAFEs, and the research they may conduct in universities and other institutions can also provide a challenging and rewarding career. As well as animal health and welfare research, veterinarians also work in human public health research. Another important, prominent and increasingly important field for vets is in animal welfare. So they play a key role in animal welfare bodies, like in Australia, it's called the RSPCA, the Royal Society for the Protection and Care of Animals. And they may also supervise and appropriately control animals that are used in research. So it's a very important role for making sure that the animals are taken care of and suitably treated. And vets will also work in zoos and sanctuaries with wildlife. So they may care for and treat some very, very rare animals in these settings. And there are many other emerging animal industries such as aquaculture, which offer a niche for veterinary science graduates. And in rural and regional settings, vets will ensure the safety of the food we eat, the export of these animals, and the care and health and welfare of livestock. I think maybe you have recently heard in the news there was a very sad story about animals on a live export ship which sunk near Japan. So there was actually a veterinary scientist on board. It's a very, very unfortunate case, but it just shows you that vets are required in these industries as well to make sure that animals are taken care of on their journeys around the world. They will also, in these rural and regional settings, identify and respond to a serious disease outbreak in various countries, and they'll give advice to farmers on herd management and production, animal welfare and biosecurity of their farms. So you might just think of vets as working in a clinic and petting beautiful cats and dogs, but there are actually a lot of different industries and types of roles that vets are involved in. So let's take a deep look at what's involved in the day-to-day tasks of a veterinary scientist. It is more than just treating sick animals. In fact, one of the biggest tasks you will have is you are dealing with humans. You are dealing with the humans that are owners or farmers of these animals, and so you need to be able to provide great customer service. So you'll be assisting with the personal and professional development of your colleagues and in nursing staff as well. You might be doing things like consoling and counseling the owners of these pets. And you'll also be likely assisting in the development of a sustainable business. So if you are a small practitioner in a small clinic somewhere, you might have to know a little bit about how to run a business as well. So these are some of the activities that you might be taking care of from a face-to-face perspective with humans. But you also need to be able to communicate and relate effectively with people in your job. So much of a veterinarian's time is spent discussing pet wellness with owners and working in a tight-knit team of healthcare professionals. Every day is going to be different in your job as a vet. While some days may run smoothly and efficiently, a veterinarian also needs to be able to manage unpredictable situations and workflows. You might get emergency situations where animals and pet owners come in the middle of the night. They may come in with a really dire, dramatic situation with their animal, and you need to be able to step in and really assist those humans and those animals with their needs. When the waiting room is filled with clients, an emergency case may walk through the door, and you need to spend extra time with a grieving client. So you need the patience and the organization and decision-making skills to make critical decisions, and you have very little room for error. So you need to learn how to prioritize. Do you take that sick emergency case immediately, or do you ask them to line up and wait their turn? It's probably better to take the emergency case. Now, when a graduate veterinarian finishes at university, they will have been trained to diagnose, treat, and prevent health problems. So this will not only be in pets, but also in native wildlife, exotic animals, and domestic livestock. And UQ's program is very comprehensive in being able to offer this broad array of industries and different species that you will work with. In general, though, there are two main duties that a veterinarian will take on a day-to-day basis. So one is to examine and assess the illness or injury suffered by an animal, and then to decide on the possible treatment that is needed. And the second main duty is to educate, usually the human beings, not the animals, but to educate and also medicate animals with preventative treatments such as vaccines, special diets, and maybe exercise or other regimens like that. And in assisting the diagnosis and treatment of animals, obviously the collection and examination of tissues, bodily fluids like feces, blood, urine, and other fluids is often carried out. So you may need a bit of a strong stomach as well to handle the situation that you're dealing with. In the course of becoming a veterinarian and studying at university, you will have practice with this. So you will actually improve those skills if you're a bit squeamish or not so confident with surgeries and gory things like that. And veterinarians will also treat their patients using a range of general medical techniques, which may include vaccinations, acupuncture, physiotherapy, or surgery. So you'll have a lot of different hats or responsibilities that you play. So let's take a look now at some of the personal requirements that you might need as a veterinarian. So what do I mean by that? I mean personality traits. Everybody has a different personality, a different mindset, different strengths and skills that they have as an individual. And here are some of those that you would need or would help you if you were to become a veterinarian. These skills, some of them are natural and inborn. You may just be like this. And some of the skills you may need to develop. And at university, you will be tested and taught by many skilled professionals who will actually help you develop a lot of these skills. So obviously, the first one is you need a general interest in the health and welfare of animals. This is going to help you in reminding you of all of the wonderfully rewarding outcomes that you have as a veterinarian. If you are passionate about what you do and you love the animals and maybe even seeing a smile on the face of the human who owns that animal, then it is going to help you persevere and maintain your way through your career. Being very observant is also another important personal trait. So having a close attention to detail and being able to notice patterns, signs, and also being able to recall a great deal of medical and veterinarian science knowledge is going to be very important. You need to be able to observe the behaviors and the traits of the animals to judge what might be wrong with them and how to treat them best. So having a close attention to detail, being very meticulous and thorough and observant in what you're doing will definitely help you. It also helps to have very good analytical, problem-solving and decision-making skills. So what does that mean? You need to, again, be able to analyze and assess the situation. If you have that clinic full of people waiting to be seen, is it best to see them in the order in which they booked their appointments, or perhaps should you prioritize the situation and take the most emergent, urgent situation and client first? You'll also need to be able to problem solve and make decisions at a very, very short notice. So you need to be calm and resilient in stressful situations and use that energy to focus and harness your problem-solving skills and decision-making skills. You want to make sure that you're treating those patients that are most urgent, and you also want to be able to juggle different demands in the workplace. And again, we've mentioned communication skills before, but these are critical skills that you will need in any industry or any role. The value of strong communication skills in a veterinary science setting is that you can clearly communicate with your veterinary technicians, your nurses, your rehab staff and other staff that support you in other roles such as physiotherapy or acupuncture. You need to be able to communicate with those people so that you can very clearly communicate what it is that is wrong with the animal, and then you might be able to work as a team to actually diagnose and solve the problem. If you're not very good with your communication skills, this is where mistakes get made, this is where problems will get worse and the situation may deteriorate further. So it's really important that you communicate with your colleagues, but also you need to have strong communication skills with the client. You need to be able to, with empathy, with care and compassion, convey to them what it is that is wrong with your animal, extract information from them about what the animal has been eating, maybe any chemicals or irritants that the animal has been exposed to, and any historical healthcare patterns or needs that the animal has had. You will, of course, need an aptitude for science. So if you are interested in this field, it's wonderful if you have passions for caring for animals, but it does help if you have a background in things like chemistry, physics, and biology as well. That's not to say that you must have those strengths. You can develop them, and we'll talk a little bit more later on about some different pathways and options if you don't have these skills and subjects from high school or university. But of course, you are doing things where you're dealing with scientific issues, you're dealing with biomedical issues, you're dealing with pathology, you're dealing with surgery. So that's where the biology, chemistry, and physics come into this field of science. You'll also need an inquiring mind. You need to sometimes think outside the box. You need to explore. And sometimes you may need to think of innovative and new ways to help treat the individual animal that you're taking care of. I think sometimes, of course, there is a textbook that will tell you a lot of the structured information you need to look after and treat animals and diagnose the illnesses that they have. However, sometimes the medical situation might be very complex, and there may not be a clear textbook answer. So it does help to have that innovative mindset, an inquiring mind where you explore and you do research as a veterinarian as well. And because you'll be looking after a large number of clients, you may have a clinic that you run, it really does help to have an organizational and supervisory skill set. So what that means is you must be very well organized yourself. You will be juggling a lot of different tasks and duties throughout your everyday role. But also you may be supervising others, especially nursing staff and veterinary technicians who deal with the equipment. So you need to be able to coordinate a team. So something else that should really be on this list is teamwork. It is not an individual pursuit. This is very much a role where you will be working in teams. And of course, hard work and perseverance. This is probably going to make or break you, I think, as a veterinarian. It is particularly useful when you're studying. Veterinary science is a very high-level program. It has a lot of competition. It has very complex scientific theory that you'll be dealing with. So you will potentially find it quite challenging, even if you're a very, very bright student with top marks. You need to have that hard work and commitment and perseverance in pursuing your goal and making your career an outcome. Okay. So let's take a more detailed look at the education and the training that you will require. So to become a veterinarian, you usually have to complete an accredited veterinary science degree at a university. An alternative is that you can complete a relevant degree, such as in science, animal science, or veterinary bioscience, and then follow that with a Doctor of Veterinary Medicine, which is the internationally best known name for the degree that you need. So most universities will offer something called a Doctor of Veterinary Medicine, and that's how you become a qualified veterinarian. So to get into these courses, you will usually need to gain your senior secondary certificate of education. So that's your high school degree. And then of course, there's usually some prerequisite subjects that come along with that, or some assumed knowledge. So that's usually in things like English, mathematics, biology, chemistry, and physics. But every university will have some different prerequisites and maybe different entrance requirements. And we'll take a look a little bit later on at what UQ's requirements are. Now, the benefit of UQ's program is that we actually offer Australia's only accredited undergraduate program that qualifies you to practice as a veterinarian locally in Australia and also internationally. So what do I mean by that? I mean, our program allows you to enter directly from high school. You don't need to have completed an undergraduate degree first. You can go straight into this 5-year program. And instead of completing your DVM or Doctor of Veterinary Medicine on top of an undergraduate program, UQ has combined and condensed these programs into a 5-year program. So it actually means you'll be completing the degree in 5 years instead of 6 years. So we'll talk a little bit more about benefits of our program in a moment, but let's take a look now at some of our course's major benefits. Okay, so in terms of UQ's veterinary science program, we have an international reputation. We have more than 3,000 graduates working in 53 countries. 70% of all of our practicing veterinarians in the state of Queensland in Australia are UQ's graduates. So we are the biggest, I guess, university in Queensland that offers a fantastic program in terms of graduate outcomes. Our international rankings are very strong. We are number 28 in the world and number 3 in Australia in the latest 2020 QS subject rankings. So that's something we're extremely proud of. And as I mentioned before, we're the only undergraduate program in Australia with AVMA accreditation. AVMA is the American Veterinary Medical Association. So that's what allows you to practice in the US and Canada. And of course, UQ is one of the group of 8 universities in Australia. We're also in the top 50 universities internationally, just comparing universities amongst each other. So we're very, very proud of these rankings. In addition to AVMA accreditation, our program actually allows graduates to start practicing immediately upon graduation in countries around the world. So you will be qualified to practice in the USA, in Canada, as well as the UK and Europe through the Royal College of Veterinary Surgeons, and also in Australia and New Zealand through the AVBC, which is the Australian and New Zealand Veterinary Boards Council. Many of our graduates are also qualified to practice throughout Asia as well. So many graduates will practice in Singapore and Hong Kong. And so this is truly a globally recognized degree that you will be receiving, and it allows you to commence your veterinary science career straight away. We also have a reputation for teaching excellence. We've won more national teaching awards than any other Australian university year on year. And we have research excellence, which is underpinned by the teaching quality. So what that means is that our teachers are often research experts as well. And this really adds to the value that you are receiving as a student. You're learning from the best. And we have very, very strong graduate satisfaction rates. Oh, my apologies, we've gone back a slide. Here we go. In terms of our facilities, we have one of the best veterinary school campuses and facilities in the Southern Hemisphere. We have state-of-the-art facilities worth over $150 million that includes teaching laboratories, clinical studies centres, veterinary medical centres, and that includes small animal hospitals and an equine hospital, and also, of course, the usual lecture theatres and all the other amenities available on campus. In terms of employability for our graduates, they are trained across species and disciplines. So this means that you can actually go into all of those different, or specialise in those different areas. Many of our graduates will go on to practice in general practice in small animals, or they may do an internship with small animals. And then you can see about a quarter of our graduates will go on to work in a mixed animal environment, and the others will then, in smaller amounts, go on to practice in government and industry and other locations. Our graduates are job ready. They are ready to walk out the door straight into clinic and into practice. So they have very flexible career options because of those skill sets that they receive as part of their training at UQ. So our world-class knowledge and skills are translated in the teaching and research that we have. We offer foundational biomedical knowledge, expert knowledge and skills in management and production, in disease and disease control, diagnostics and therapies, and also clinical skills including surgery and radiology, as well as biosecurity and public health. Our students are taught about problem solving and decision making, one of those key requirements that you actually need in the job. And of course, you have a range of non-technical, cross-industry transferable skills such as communication, professionalism, and customer service, critical in any industry. And of course, you'll be gaining practical skills for a range of those veterinary careers. So that's including animal handling and clinical skills. We also offer excellence in clinical outcomes and training. So this is diagnostics and treatment planning and problem solving in these fields. And of course, you'll be working with a range of animals, and we have these available to you to practice with on campus. So UQ's Gatton campus, where our clinics are based, allow you to work with commercial animal facilities and also companion animal cohorts. So as I mentioned, we have those different facilities such as cattle and equine, piggery, and also small animal and exotic animal and of course wildlife. So things like kangaroos, koalas are also available on our campus as well. And of course, throughout the program, it's really important that you're supported. So we actually have something called the Veterinary Leadership Program. This allows students to build their communication and team building skills through a number of activities, and it really helps to foster a supportive learning environment. We have a buddy system where second year students will actually support first year students as mentors and help them to settle into university life. We also have the UQ Veterinary Science Association, which is a student-run club and society, and a number of other special interest groups and other clubs and societies to make sure that students have a sense of community in their experience as a student at UQ. So in terms of career outcomes, you will be able to choose from a wide variety of careers. This will be everything from a veterinarian in private practice. So you might work with companion animals, horses and farm animals, birds, wildlife and exotics, or zoo animals. And of course you can specialize in one of these areas. And as I mentioned before, there's those government, industry and research and discovery roles as well. This is just a very quick overview of the veterinary science study plan at UQ. So we actually have a link to this a little bit later on, and you can find it through our website, which is study-planner.uq.edu.au. So this is really the structure of the veterinary science study plan. In the first 2 or 1.5 years, you'll be looking at the normal or the basic fundamentals of animal science and veterinary science. So that's things like molecular biology, cell biology, zoology, biology, and you'll delve into things like animal husbandry and animal handling, as well as nutrition, breeding genetics, and of course get into all of the animal pathology side of things as well. In years 2, 3, and 4, you then start exploring the diseased animal. So you go from treating and looking at the normal animal, and you start to explore the different types of infectious diseases and pathology that you might need to treat and diagnose diseased animals. And so you'll also be looking at animal production and welfare, clinical practice principles, and then you start to specialize in year 4 and 5 in how to fix the animals. So this is where you go into your clinical studies and professional practice. So this is actually built into the program. You have a number of industry placements, and I think from memory, 1,500 hours of clinical practice as well. So you're really getting a hands-on experience, and that allows you to be ready to enter the field the moment you graduate. I mentioned those placements. So you actually do preclinical placements in years 2 to 4. So this is after you've successfully completed those year 1 foundational courses, and you'll have 40 days of industry placements throughout the semester break, so in the summer and winter research terms. In your clinical placements, these are also called Extramural Studies, EMS, and these are the real life placements that you'll actually do in year 5, the final year of your course. So it is fully managed. We take care of arranging all of these placements, and that is managed by our veterinary school. And then students will be sort of placing their request and registering their interest as to where they might want to do these placements in the 4th year. So in a typical week at UQ as a veterinary science student, your day might look something like this. You'll begin at sort of 8 or 9 in the morning, and you'll finish by about 3, 4 or 5 in the afternoon. So after-hours study may be required because it's quite an intensive program that you're doing from sort of 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. each day. In terms of extramural studies, this can be made up of things like farm and animal enterprises, so you'll be doing 10 weeks of placement there. You'll then cover 16 weeks of clinical and professional placements in veterinary surgeries. In your 5th year elective, you'll also have a 4-week placement. And then, of course, you go through the process of gaining accreditation and those practical skills right throughout those EMS studies. Okay, so where do you actually do this program? Where is Queensland? I'm sure most of you have heard of Sydney or Melbourne, maybe not Brisbane, maybe not Gatton, but perhaps you've heard of the Gold Coast. We are based in the same state, which is Queensland, and we're about 1 hour away from the Gold Coast here in Brisbane. So UQ's main campus is in Brisbane. Our Gatton campus is actually where we have our veterinary science and animal science studies taught. So this is a beautiful photo of Brisbane. Let's explore the Gatton campus. So this is our Gatton-based campus, which is based near the town of Gatton, about just over 1 hour's drive from Brisbane. It offers a very friendly and welcoming lifestyle. It has world-class teaching and research facilities, farms, a community garden, and other sports facilities. All of the amenities are available that you might need on campus, such as libraries, gyms, a swimming pool, clubs and societies, cafes, restaurants, and of course accommodation options as well. We have modern teaching facilities and laboratories alongside beautiful historic buildings. And this includes a $33 million Centre for Advanced Animal Science Medical Centre. We also offer medical wellness and learning support services for students, as well as a range of recreation activities like those clubs and societies I mentioned before. There's a post office, a childcare centre, bookshops, banking facilities, and a licensed club on campus as well. And we have free university-operated express buses that will transfer you between the Brisbane and Gatton campuses each day during the semester. It operates 4 times a day, allowing you, if you wish, to live in Brisbane and to commute to our Gatton campus. There is also free on-campus parking for students who may wish to drive themselves. And of course, we also offer accommodation options on the Gatton campus through our halls of residence. So this purpose-built campus is, as you can see here, I think, in purple, our Gatton campus. And this is Brisbane based here, and of course the Gold Coast based down here. The Gold Coast and Brisbane are about an hour away from each other. So again, the Brisbane and Gatton campuses are about an hour as well. So a lot of our students will live in this pocket, which is called Southeast Queensland. The Gatton campus, however, is it also features an on-site dormitory with many rooms, I think about 300 rooms, and there's also lots of nearby accommodation. Here's a couple of photos.
Yeah,
of
excuse me.
purpose-built campus.
Yeah, sorry for interrupt, but we have only few minutes left. So
Sure.
there are some questions on YouTube live chat. So the one question is the regarding course structure. So it's like, are you providing some specialization, some particular animal? I mean, like pets such as dog and cat, or livestock such as pig and cow, or wild animals such as the reptile or birds, or you are providing all species as same portion in your course?
That's a really, really good question. I believe in the first couple of years, students have the ability to get exposure in equal amounts to those different areas.
Mhm.
It's usually broken up into small animals, livestock, equine, and then exotic animals. And then further on into the program, students can specialize.
All right. The other one is when students apply the vet science, or so then they students have to have the relative experience, like having internship in vet. How can I say? A clinical center or something like.
Yes, yes.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, before their application. Yeah.
They can. We can't tell you where the students would necessarily undertake their placements. We do have a number of veterinary clinics that we work with, particularly a clinic called the Debra Veterinary Clinic, and so we work very closely with them to offer those placements, and we take care of all of the arrangements for the students.
All right. Okay. So I think it's all the question. Yeah. So you can make a conclusion.
Sure. If there are any more questions, please send them through right now, and we can quickly answer. I might just mention some of the entrance requirements very quickly. So looking at our 2021 program, I just wanted to mention that we only offer intake starting in semester 1, which is February of each year. In terms of entrance requirements for IB, the minimum requirement is 37. The GCE A and AS levels are 12 as a minimum score, and I'll quickly flash up the other prerequisites for the subjects there. For veterinary science, we actually have a higher English language requirement of 7.0 in IELTS overall, with no subband less than 7. So students do need to have a very high English language requirement, and they also need to undertake something called a CASPA situational judgment test. Now, all of this information is available on the Future Students website that we have at the bottom here, and I'll be very happy to share today's presentation slides with you after, so you can share these with our attendees if they'd like. But I will also just quickly say that this is a quota program. So we do have maximum numbers of students that we can take in each year. It can be usually a minimum of 50 students. However, we are trying to be very mindful that COVID is impacting, so we may increase this quota for 2021. Students, we really recommend that they apply to UQ first, because they will need to undertake the SJT test, and in order to do that they need a UQ student ID number. And the key subjects that students will need are mathematics, English, and then chemistry, and they can either have physics or biology. So those are the main subject prerequisites. And if students are interested in the program at UQ, the situational judgment test, it's a little bit difficult to explain in a short amount of time. So I'd recommend that students go to this website here, which is takecaspa.com. They can also go through to the UQ Veterinary Science degree website. And of course, there is some links there with more information about how to apply, and also what the CASPA test involves. And if students aren't able to gain direct entry to UQ's Veterinary Science program, we actually do have other pathways. Students might start in a Bachelor of Science, Veterinary Technology, Wildlife Science or Equine Science, and then after 1 year, they may be able to gain entry into the Veterinary Science program. Okay, and I'll just skip the last few slides about pathways. I'm sure that the BARDA education people can assist our students or any interested parties if they have questions about these different pathways. But just to say, there are options available, and we do have scholarships available to students as well, particularly the Faculty of Science International Student Scholarship and the fabulous Destination Australia Scholarship, which is valued at up to $60,000 over a 4-year period. So we definitely recommend students apply. And this is another slightly related scholarship, but I will let you go and wrap things up because I'm very mindful of the time. If you wish to reach out to me, our email address is here. It is science.international@uq.edu.au. And of course, you can reach us on social media via the links there. It's been a pleasure. And do we have any other questions finally?
Actually, there is 2 questions. So one question is, I have received an offer for 2021 semester first, But if the borders are still shut at that time and I'm not able to enter Australia, would I be able to defer my studies after receiving the COE? That's the first
Yes, you
question.
may.
Mhm.
Yes. So, of course, this is something we're still watching very closely. We don't have any information just yet about whether Australia's government will open the borders to international students. There is a possibility. There is currently a pilot program being undertaken to reintroduce international students to Australia. Fingers crossed this goes well and we can start to accept students in 2021. If you cannot come to Australia next year, we will gladly accept students who may have an offer if they wish to defer to 2022. You're very welcome to do that. However, I will also mention quickly that students can commence their studies online, and we do have veterinary science students who are currently studying with us overseas online, and then you can actually join us hopefully in year 2. So if you don't want to delay your studies and you have that offer for 2021, it may be worthwhile considering starting your studies online and then actually commencing with us in person when you can. I'll just quickly jump back a few slides while you ask the next question, just to show you that it is possible to do this online. The program, this slide here, this is footage of our equine science surgery being done with GoPros on the lecturers' heads. So they have allowed students to zoom in and watch the surgery being performed really close up, and it actually has been probably more beneficial to the students rather than crowding around and trying to peek over and see over the lecturer's shoulder. So it does work, and we have found ways to do this online.
Yeah. And then this one must be the last question. So if I apply for the accommodation on Garden campus and I am not able to enter Australia due to the border control, that would happen.
So I think the students would still be able to commence their careers. Was that the question?
It's actually the same question, the border closure, and then regarding the accommodation happen.
Yes. So UQ is working very closely with the Queensland government and also with the Australian government to identify when it might be possible to welcome international students. We do have some support mechanisms in place to help students with the costs and some of the accommodation requirements. Once international students are able to come to Australia, they have to self-quarantine, and we're assisting with that process. So more information I'm happy to send through to you for to disseminate to the audience after today's session, if that helps.
Thank you.
You're very, very welcome. I shall stop sharing my screen now, but it's been an absolute pleasure, and I'm sorry we skipped
Alright.
a few of those slides.
So I will make a conclusion. So 그리고 지금까지 후이대 관련해서 퀸즐랜드학교에 도움 드렸고요. 지금 다음 터민 간호대 기다리고들 계셔가지고 빠른 마무리하겠습니다. 감사합니다.